up, Jake?
What's up, man?
What's up? Going on? This is episode 52 of the Sean Lowery Show podcast. And cheers, bro. This is perfect because this is my friend from college from my fraternity. And he hit me up and he's like, yo, I want to come on your podcast because I have something I've been wanting to talk about forever that I've been researching and knowledgeable on. And it's basically about like the global economy, the war on money. I'll let him explain it more, but he's in finance and it's his first time being on a podcast, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe this will launch your fame, but yeah, dude, what the hell's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. Hanging in there, just trying to, make the best of everything that's going on in this world. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, same. We just had to start wearing masks in Charleston, like July 1st. So I'm getting used to it. But you're in Hoboken, right?
I'm in like Paulus Hook, Jersey City.
Okay, Jersey City.
Literally right over the water from New York.
So you've been like shut down forever, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But there's really no like direct like mandates or anything. They're not telling you directly what to do. So, they reopened the economy and for a while we were just like, what should we do? Can we do whatever we want or so I'm not even sure. So
yeah, whatever, dude. All right. So let's talk about your shit that you want to talk about. So I took your notes a little bit and jotted them down, basically like the history of money. And like, ultimately you're trying to kind of say like the Federal Reserve's like trying to fuck us or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I can use worse words than that, but yeah.
All right. Start from the top.
All right. So, this is just a very important topic and probably less than 1% of the people out there are worried about it or even know about it. A big reason is, this stuff isn't taught in school for a reason. No one knows about it. And, I think they're using it to their advantage. The government, the Federal Reserve, the people with all the money. Money is power. And, it's just a shame that the common person like us don't have a lot of it. So anyway, I'll just start from the top.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm
compared to those guys, yeah, I'm poor.
Do you enjoy every year paying, during confiscation season is like what I like to call it, or tax season is what they like to call it. You got to give half of your money back. It's not cool.
It's actually true. It's actually true. Like my approach to it is like, all right, I just fucking pay it and don't think about it. Like it's a lot, right. But like, right. I don't have, what am I going to do? Go protest? Like, so they kind of got me there because I'm not fighting back on anything. I'm just like, I'll pay it and just move on it, but it sucks.
Yeah. It's that in addition to sales tax. It's just unbelievable. You can see there's still 6 states. I think there's 6 states that have no state tax, no sales tax. And, people are flocking to those states right now, in Florida, Tennessee, it's just crazy. So, people are being stretched. And I think it has to do with the Federal Reserve and the government. They say that they're independent of each other, but you see Stephen Mnuchin and Jerome Powell on TV together all the time. They're really working together.
So Mnuchin's in the White House, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Powell, he's in the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, Jerome Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve, and Stephen Mnuchin is the Secretary of Treasury.
Okay, so yeah, they're obviously like have each other's cell phone numbers.
Oh yeah, they're BFFs. When the government needs money, they call up the Fed, and then the Fed prints the money for them. And then they issue treasuries. So that's just how it works.
All right. What are treasuries?
Treasuries are just, IOUs from the government. Basically, every time they need money because they don't have any money because they're $27 trillion in debt, they spent all our money that they collect during confiscation season. They have no money for anything. So it just doesn't make sense. I'm sure, all your listeners can see even that on the news. They're just bailing out companies left and right. They're spending trillions and trillions of dollars.
They just gave everyone $1,200.
Yeah.
And I got like 40 grand or something. Like, yeah, they're just giving it out, right?
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you got to take advantage of it.
I wasn't complaining.
PPP? Yeah, I wouldn't complain
either.
Right.
I was honestly feeling patriotic, and I was like, I'm not going to take it. And actually, Nick Basidi, our friend, he was like, you fucking idiot. He's like, take the money.
Yeah, you got to take it.
I was like, fuck you, Nick. But then I saw Mark Cuban was like, any entrepreneur who doesn't take the PPP is an idiot. And I was like, all right, I'm going to apply for this thing.
I think everybody that doesn't take it, that is eligible is an idiot.
Right. So
I'm happy you took it because some of it is technically my money. That's the way I see it.
Thanks, man. You bought me this beer.
You got it, dude. Anytime. But it's just people don't realize that it's their money that the government is using, because if the government doesn't have the money, where are they getting the money from? I mean, they're just printing it out of thin air, getting it from the Federal Reserve.
They don't have revenue, right?
The Federal Reserve has zero revenue.
And the federal government, like,
Federal government does have revenue in the form of us, in the form of
taxes.
us paying them taxes. Yeah, that's it.
Right.
That's it. They also did get some revenue as well off of our money after 2008. When we bailed out the banks actually came back and made money on top of what we provided to them. So they did make money off of that, but of course we didn't see a dime of it.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
Wait, say that again?
So in 2008, remember we bailed out the banks?
Right.
So the banks actually, when they paid back the loan to the U.S. government.
The banks paid back the loan to the U.S. government, right?
Yeah. The U.S. government charged them interest as well. So when they paid everything back to the government technically was at a surplus. They made money, but we didn't get that distributed to us. I mean, that's technically our money, but the government kept the earnings.
Right. Okay.
It's just wild. It's
okay.
Wild.
All right. So like the history of like is the dollar, the American dollar, the U.S. dollar. It is the best currency in the world. As far as like a global reserve.
Yes. So I kind of got distracted. So yeah, currently it is the global reserve currency.
And that means that means it's the strongest currency. So like any other nation or person who wants to put their money in the safest place would put it in the U.S. dollar. Is that right? Accurate?
Yeah, it's the dollar's looked at as one of the safe haven currencies for sure. A lot of people in finance like to call it the dollar's the least dirtiest shirt in the basket.
Okay.
Because they're all dirty. They're all shit. All the money's confetti. It's shit. I mean, I think since 2008 there have been 38 currencies that have died. Zimbabwe, including, I think they've made 5 different currencies.
What?
So yeah, I mean, you could see. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen. It'll blow your mind if you take a look at the Venezuelan stock market and the Zimbabwe stock market. I mean, it's been up thousands of percent in the last couple of years. It's insane.
Imagine like selling bananas in Zimbabwe, buying them for a price, selling them for a price, making money, and then like all of a sudden it's all worthless.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That sucks.
It's crazy. Every day, I've read every day, like in Venezuela, there are people that have enough money to buy food for the day in the morning, and then in the afternoon, inflation's so out of control. It's hyperinflation there that they can't even afford it anymore. So that's why these countries are going to be great for Bitcoin and they're flocking to using Bitcoin because, it's storing their wealth. And this is one of these instruments, in addition to Bitcoin, gold, silver, anything else that can store your wealth, any commodity. But the fact that Bitcoin, silver, and gold, they have kind of a currency aspect to them. I mean, gold and silver have been currencies for 10,000 years.
Right.
But I mean, our U.S. government wants us to use their money, so they call gold and silver commodities.
Right.
But everyone knows. I mean, so let's go back to the history thing. I'm getting distracted. I'm sorry. But in 1913, the Federal Reserve was incepted. That's when it was created. It was created on Jekyll Island, right off of Georgia.
Okay.
And they did this on a Saturday as well. I think on Christmas weekend, I believe.
Okay.
A holiday weekend.
Okay.
Anyway, they were doing this because our initial government, we were more of like a libertarian government, more power to the people. And no one wanted this. No one wanted this to happen. So a few guys, they went off. I think they must have brought somebody in power because now it has been created. And the same year, they created the IRS. So before that, they were using gold, silver, for money that we've been using forever.
How did they collect taxes before that? Before the IRS?
They didn't.
Ah.
They didn't. So they had sales tax, right?
Okay, at a state level.
Exactly. And that's what I think we should have a sales tax, but we should not have an income tax.
Okay.
But the IRS was created in 1913 as well with the Fed. And they were like, they did this for a reason. They did it because, they're printing this money. The Fed already now has the power to print the money and they know what they're doing. So they can control the money supply. They can inflate it when they want, inflate our purchasing power away while they get more. And, the bankers and the government. And they're like, how are we going to get these people to use this money that we create, this monopoly money? So they're like, all right, let's create the IRS and let's have income taxes. So, people will only be able to pay their income taxes every year in dollars. Exactly. So they collect revenues, the dollars, and then they use the Fed to redistribute dollars.
And that made the dollar just valuable for someone buying a coffee or some shit like that. Like no one was questioning the dollar at that point. Like they're like, we have to pay our taxes in dollars, and it probably gave a little bit of strength to it, right?
Yeah, of course, and it's just to keep going. In the 30s, we had. Have you ever heard of Bretton Woods?
No.
It was a meeting that a lot of world leaders actually had, a lot of different countries actually had in the 30s, and that's actually when they decided to make the U.S. dollar the world reserve currency.
Is that like is that an official thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's been world reserve currencies. I can go back to Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, France, and then of course in 1776 we got our independence from Britain.
I heard about that.
Right. And Britain was the last global reserve currency before it was passed to us.
Okay.
We got the crown.
From 1776 to 1930.
Yeah, I mean, give or take. I don't think it was in 70. These cycles usually last for, around 100 years, 80 to 110 years.
We're coming up on that.
We are. We are. But it gets a little hairier. So with Bretton Woods, they all came together. During Bretton Woods, they created the IMF. Have you ever heard of the IMF?
International Monetary Fund?
You got it. And they also created the World Bank. And, Bretton Woods was an agreement that said, the United States dollar is backed by gold, right? So it can't be inflated. It had to be pegged to a commodity, so it couldn't be, abused. So, and this was a big thing with our first, creators, our founding fathers. You don't want the government to be too big. You don't want the government to be able to control money. There's a quote from Henry Ford, I think, in the 30s after Bretton Woods happened, and he said, if people knew what really went on with our banking system, we would have a revolution tomorrow morning. And that's Henry Ford. It's crazy. Damn. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So with Bretton Woods, so the U.S. dollar is backed by gold, and usually they select the country that is the most productive. And right now, I don't know if you see this, but in China, obviously they're the most productive. I mean, they produce everything and give to the rest of the world. Back then, during the Industrial Revolution, we were, a production powerhouse.
Right.
And production equals consumption.
Right.
Printing money does not equal consumption. So basically, anyway, with Bretton Woods, every other currency would be pegged to the U.S. dollar. And their reasoning was because it was good as gold, right? Everyone saw our production powerhouse. It's backed by gold. The U.S. is a big emerging country. So every other country's currency is pegged to our dollar, and our dollar is backed by gold.
Yeah. And then World War II, but then we were like super strong because of that, like around 40s, 50s, 60s. Yeah.
Yep. And then Richard Nixon.
Right.
Yeah. So you're familiar.
I know about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1971.
Tell the listeners.
Okay. So in 1971, there was the whole thing with Richard Nixon, and basically he found out that we were basically bankrupt. But he wanted to keep this system going. I mean, the 50 years, back from when the inception, it happened since 1933 or whenever, like the
Bretton
1930s
Woods.
with Bretton Woods till 71, that's 50 years. So he knew we were screwed, and Bretton Woods kind of dissolved in 1971. That agreement dissolved with the gold backing. So now our currency becomes, the U.S. dollar becomes a fiat currency.
So what he did in 1971 was he disconnected the dollar to gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's called a fiat currency.
Right. Fiat just means paper, kind of, in a way, right? Like, fiat means, what was it called before fiat? It was just gold-backed currency?
Yeah, it's currency, right?
Right.
Once they start taking these actual definitions and then changing them, is when something's messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Federal Reserve, they have 30 programs now. They're not calling bailouts now. They're calling them loans that are forgiven. They change everything because then people kind of get triggered. That's not what it means.
But that was a huge moment in American history. Like, we know about the Revolutionary War, we know about the Civil War, we know about the Civil Rights, we know about landing on the moon. But like in 1971, we changed the dollar from being backed by gold to not being backed by gold anymore. And that was a huge moment for the whole global economy, right?
Of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
huge. And
huge.
then, once it became a fiat currency, which means basically it's backed by nothing, everything just started getting out of control. I mean, our wages, our real wages have been flat or negative. There's been more violence. There's been more incarcerations. There's been, just so many things. I mean, there's been debt skyrocketing. It's just unbelievable. And it's the fact that our currency is, pegged, or every other currency in the world is pegged to our currency, is really hurting other countries as well. But we're kind of a nation that, doesn't really care. I mean, to me, it's crazy that so many people in this country are so worried about, like, they feel so sad about the person next to them or someone else in this country.
Right.
But if you open your mind a little bit and you think about, how about the people's quality of life in, a third world country? I mean, it's a little embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing.
I definitely don't care as much.
Right. I mean, I don't either, because we're just a product of society. I mean, we're influenced by our leaders, which I think have gotten out of control with the size of government.
Yeah. So 1970 was when the gold thing changed, and it's been out of control since then. So now the Federal Reserve, they're basically like, they're there, they can print, they have the ability to print money.
Yeah, they have full reign on the printing press. Exactly.
And that affects like inflation and shit like that.
Of course. Well, this gets a little bit hairy as well, and that's how they like it. They don't want us to understand it. They don't want to understand.
So like, you think that the Federal Reserve is like basically trying to fuck the average person? Like, why don't they like us? Why are they trying to do that to us? Because it's made up of individuals who are power and money hungry.
Yeah, exactly. It's the bankers. I mean, what I talked about, the Bretton Woods fading. I mean, the IMF and the World Bank are stronger than ever, and they're bankers.
Where are they like centered or located?
I'm not exactly sure. I think somewhere in Europe. In
Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it's just, the thing is, I mean, it's just, money and power, and that's all that matters. I mean, I don't know if you saw the list of bailouts other list of PPP loans, some of these companies that got awarded PPP loans, like Jared Kushner's family office, and millions
I saw
of dollars.
Kanye West got one.
Kanye West, like, does he really need it? Come on, how's that going to help us?
Yeah,
that's why they're doing this, to help us, apparently.
Right.
But everything that they do is, I'm sorry, it's kind of getting into like a government, fuck you fest a little bit, but everything that they do is, the opposite. Like the Patriot Act, is it really the Patriotic Act? I think it's the opposite. The CARES Act, to me, it's the I don't care act. It doesn't make sense.
They're really good at branding with those names.
They are. I mean, it's just
the
hilarious.
Patriot Act, like, that sounds great.
Right? I mean, these guys are geniuses. You just take what it means to you, and you understand what's happening, whoever's creating it, and you just say the opposite, and everyone believes it. It's unbelievable. Crazy.
Yeah. So, all right, so it's out of control, and it's out of control like because they're just printing money, and they're just doing whatever they can to more help themselves, kind of. And it's just like, so now what? Like, so now, like, the stock market seems like I've invested when the stocks were down, and I made money since then. I made like $9,000 in
nice
paper. Like, I bought like Tesla, like Shopify, like that seems good for me, but like the whole systems you think are eventually going to collapse, or like, that's the part I don't like get. Like, okay, a bunch of head honchos are making money, but I don't feel like I'm not fucked, but I don't know. Maybe I just don't get it.
Well, to me, at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's really, really hard for people to understand, because they don't know, they don't know anything else, especially us, our age group. We don't know anything else but the dollar, right?
Right.
Isn't it tough to imagine you ever using another currency than a greenback?
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time they print money, or all this money they print, obviously, if there's more stuff, then it's going to be worth less, right? There's going to be less demand for it if there's more of it.
Right.
And they've already printed, I think between the government and the Fed, they've printed close to $6 or $7 trillion since the pandemic. I guess they decided to.
And like, it doesn't seem to have had a negative effect as at this moment. Is that wrong?
Somewhat. I mean, they're just so the Fed, they release all these statistics. You ever heard of the BLS statistics? No, it's just basically the Fed's website, and every
Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Yeah, there you go.
I know. I think, all right.
Yeah, so they release all their statistics, and all they do. So there's about 18 different types of inflation, and all they talk about is one
What?
type of. Yeah, yeah. So all they talk
Okay.
about really is price inflation of consumer goods, and that's what they
Okay.
call the PCE. So when they say, you ever heard of the Fed talking and saying the PCE rate is lower, it's getting 1.4
I
or
don't know.
1.3 now, 1.2 now.
Product consumer. What's it stand for?
It's like price. It's PCI. They change it all the time. Price consumer
Okay.
index.
All
Price
right, but
consumer.
yeah, like I know I'd probably be bored to death and like be like, all right, whatever. Like, how am I doing? You know?
Well, that's what they want. That's what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, interest rates have a lot to do with this as well.
Right.
And they try to make it very, very hard to understand.
Dude, yeah, like I'm trying to get a building for my business, and I have this SBA loan. You know about those? It's like a 7A or something like that, and it's fucking confusing, man. I don't know, and I wish it wasn't the government. I wish it was like just but I don't know if that affects it. But it's They basically confuse you with complicated shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Stocks are easy to understand. You buy it.
Yep.
A certain amount of shares for a certain price goes up. Like how is the stock market related to all this shit?
So basically, what the Fed is doing, they're printing money, right? And it's staying into it's moving into the fake economy. And I call the real economy, which is people don't realize there's two economies, and that's my opinion.
Explain that.
But so the real economy is what's going on out there. I mean, with the social unrest, you hear all the time people are still waiting for the stimulus checks. People are still waiting for unemployment. There's over 50 million people that are have applied for unemployment benefits. So how many people? There's 330 million people in the United States. 50 million plus are on the books for the government for getting help, for getting aid, unemployment aid. But how are they still saying that it's only 13% or 11% now? I think unemployment. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So there are just things that they do to make you think that everything's okay. You got Donald Trump going out there. Everything's great. It's the best economy ever. We'll get through this. 2021 is going to be the best economy this world has ever seen. So it's just like their job is to pitch a good economy.
Optimism,
exactly.
And Trump's kind of good at that. Are you still a fan of him? I know you were.
I was, but I don't know if you remember when he was campaigning in 2016. He had a very, very good pitch for libertarians. He was saying, our economy is toxic, it's terrible. I'm going to come in and
he was
fix
saying
it.
he was saying the unemployment number is like not real. I remember him saying that a lot.
Yes,
but now he brags about it. Like,
yeah, exactly. So he didn't drain the swamp. He, refilled it, or overflowed it, in my opinion. I mean, what he said he was going to do, he did the total opposite. So, I mean, I was a fan of him. And I think he might have had that intent, but I think the swamp it's not drainable. So I think he got in and was kind of cornered, and they were like, listen, you have to do this, or, you can't be president.
Joe Rogan always talks about, like, he thinks every president that gets elected, someone, like, taps on their shoulder, like, hey, come in this room. And they sit him down, and they're like, all right, here's how this shit really works, man.
Yes.
And, like,
I have to agree with him.
Yeah. And, like, can it ever be broken?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Every time a global reserve currency, every time that crown is lost, it always ends with revolution. First, it's social unrest, actually,
and that's kind of
like what we're having.
Is that anything that's connected?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because people start to realize. I mean, people have no money, right? So when people don't have money, they do things that are immoral. They do things that are not normally ethical.
Anarchy.
Exactly. So they don't have money. So, and the prices of food are rising like out of control. And, people are like, how am I going to eat? How am I going to get food for my daughter or my son, my wife, like my husband? I got to go out and steal people's money, or I got to go out and kill people because there's no jobs. And then, the government, just because you don't have a job right now, there's a lot of people that don't, obviously. It's showing right now the government is having trouble getting them their unemployment money. I mean, and they could fix it. It could keep coming. But at the same time, you don't want to ever rely on anybody else for your own issues.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, a lot of people do like rely on the government, and I don't know, is that good? That's not good, right? But if you
Not at
don't,
all.
but if you don't have your own way to make money, and the money doesn't, the money comes from the government. It is the government's, like, it's created by the government. I heard my favorite people that I like now for president would be like a Mark Cuban or Andrew Yang. I feel like they're similar, and they talk about having like a debit card that like everyone has that from the government that they can just like shoot money to. A little more like effective way of distributing it, but that's just a distribution system. Like, it's still getting money from the government.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Which is essentially your money. I mean, and the problem is with that, I mean, they want to, so I heard about that, and they want to have an expiration on the money that expires.
I think that's interesting.
It's interesting. So they only want to do it.
So basically, they're saying for people listening, you have to spend this certain amount of money, say $1,000 a month. You have to spend it by the end of the month, or else it gets expired and you don't have it anymore.
Right.
And then that spending would help small businesses, et cetera. More spending in the economy, more jobs. That's the concept.
Yep. Well, I mean, they like to call it, velocity of money, and that's a big, excuse me, the beer, but that's very impactful to GDP, which really, we're this globe right now, it's just so competitive. China, look at China. I mean, China is doing everything they can.
You think they might be the next reserve? What do they have, like the yuan or some shit like that?
Yeah, the yuan, but they should be. On paper, they should be, but I don't think that the rest of the countries around the globe are going to be okay with that because they're communists. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't trust them.
Number one, because they're communists. And number two, we've fucked up everything so bad, the United States. The world has never seen this over history, even adjusted for inflation or anything. We have really created a fucking circus as far as, our debts. We are legendary. Crazy debts. I mean, we're going to be reading about this in our textbooks, or our kids are going to be reading about this in our textboots, years ahead of time.
I heard Trump was trying to gather a group of countries to go to China and be like, "Yo, we're not fucking paying."
Yeah,
that sounded good to me. I don't know like all the details, but like that'd be great if we just didn't have to pay.
Yeah, but the problem is, I mean, I think that's eventually going to happen because our country is bankrupt, right?
Dang.
So
like it's such a weird concept, I think, for people. That our country's bankrupt, like, and we have so much debt. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me, like, but how does that end up negatively affecting the average person? So I think people have trouble with this. This is, I think, the root of where people have trouble connecting all this stuff to their daily life.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely important. So, good question. Basically, that debt burden that the government holds, and then also the Federal Reserve has their own balance sheet now. And it's close to $7 trillion. So, okay, if you want to actually tell the truth here, government, together you have $34 trillion in debt, right? And another thing too is they talk about trillions, billions all the time, and the average person like you and I still think $1 million is a lot of money. A lot of people need to realize how much $1 trillion is. That's so much money.
Yeah, I mean, so 34 trillion in debt. If you told me 34 billion. I get there's a huge difference between the two, but like unfathomably big, but like still, I'm just like, how does that affect my daily life?
So eventually, the government is going to have to pay that back because the government, they issue treasuries to other nations, right? That's how we get our creditors, other nations. Our biggest creditors are China and Japan. China was our biggest creditor. But over the last few years, they've been selling our treasuries and buying gold because they don't trust us anymore. They know that we're bankrupt, in my opinion. So, and they're also trying to, they're nipping at our heels, trying to catch up and become the next gold reserve currency, which is, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a world reserve currency because people realize the fucking craziness that we created. So I think we're going to have a global currency. Hopefully we all learn from this, but we'll see.
A global currency, huh?
That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. I mean, they were actually talking about it for, I think it was on the cover of The Economist magazine. And
I guess the downsides of that would be like some idiots could fuck it up for everyone.
How so?
I don't know. I guess like if the economy's working great throughout the world and everyone has the same currency, and in one part of the world, I don't know. I guess they all screw up, but maybe won't. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's tough. You're definitely right. I mean,
maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe if you have a global currency, then that doesn't matter because everyone's speaking the same language, and it's just them who are negatively affected.
Right. I mean, what I really envision is there's going to be one global currency, kind of like how gold is.
Gold's global.
The unspoken.
Is it going to be
world
Bitcoin?
reserve currency. I don't think it's going to be Bitcoin.
Do you have any Bitcoin?
Yes, I do.
I got some. I got a little bit.
Nice.
I
didn't know that.
I bought it in 2014, and I actually sold it in like 2016 because I was like, my business wasn't going great. But I cashed out $22,000.
Wow.
And that was great. And at the time, that just kind of went in the hole of my business because I wasn't having I had a bad straretch. But
that probably helped. I mean, a nice 22,000. That's nice.
It helped.
You pay taxes on it?
No.
Good.
Never mentioned it to any accountant or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, earlier no one paid taxes on it back then. That's awesome.
Yeah, but so I just bought a little more recently,
Great.
just like a 25% of one Bitcoin. I think it hasn't moved a lot since I bought it. It's around $9,000. That's where I bought it. But it's funny because I'm just looking at it like an investment, like basically the same as like a Tesla. Like it's just an investment in my mind.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, people don't realize people need to be educated on Bitcoin because regardless of whether or not it works, at the end of the day, it's sound money. And what I mean by sound money is it's just like gold. It's better than gold, in my opinion, though, because it's just peer to peer. You can just pay from phone to phone.
You know Peter Schiff.
Of course, I love Peter Schiff.
So
one of my biggest influencers.
He hates Bitcoin.
Yep.
And he is in this argument always like I wrap my head around and think about. He says gold has value because at the end of the day, it's still like a paperweight. It's still like you can hit someone in the head with it. You can still like juggle three. It's a physical thing that you can still do stuff with. You can make a necklace. You can
intrinsic value.
You can make a gold earring. It has intrinsic value because it's a physical property. And I don't really give a shit if I got a box of rocks. Like I don't know. But he's all about that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, you got to understand. You got to remember. I mean, I love Peter Schiff. I love gold, silver as well, platinum, but I love Bitcoin as well. So he is a great economist and he's a libertarian. So he's one of my biggest influencers, but he still has a product to defend. He's sitting on a shitload of gold. He's got his biggest company, his gold company. That's what my opinion
Schiff
is.
Gold.
Yes, that's what my opinion is.
Dude, I always think that. And I'm like, is this skewing this guy's perception as an economist? Because he obviously is invested in gold himself and he has his own gold shit going on. And he's sitting here bashing Bitcoin, saying how gold's amazing. And every time he comes on, gives some good opinions about the economy. And then he's like, oh, yeah, fuck Bitcoin. Gold is intrinsic value. And I'm just like, okay, I heard this from you before, man. But
he says it almost every podcast.
Exactly.
He has to touch on Bitcoin.
Every single podcast, he talks shit on Bitcoin and talks up gold. And I like when he kind of talks about other stuff a little bit because I feel like he might be biased there.
He is a little bit biased. I think he's great. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you see, Anthony Pompliano? No. He's one of the bigger Bitcoin influences. And he was actually just on, the Bill Burt podcast?
Bill Burr and Burt Kreischer?
Yeah.
He was on there?
Yeah, it's fairly new. And he was actually just on there. And
Bitcoin needs more like voices and faces.
Yeah,
because I don't know that guy.
Yeah, I mean he's big deal. He was on
What's
CNBC
his name?
a lot.
Greg Pompliano?
Anthony Pompliano. Same thing, Greg Anthony.
Feliz cumpleaños a tu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I would write the name down. I mean, he's an awesome, smart guy. I mean, I think he's our age, which is pretty cool too.
Dude, the guy I had in my podcast, John Vallis, episode 37 of the Sean Lowery Show. Look at it right here. Dude, he was so fucking knowledgeable on the topic. And I was so impressed. And he was like going circles around me. And I was like trying to catch up with him because he was just so knowledgeable about it. But I see he goes live on like Twitter every day talking to other Bitcoin people. And he gets there's 3 people in there watching. I think it needs some voices and some faces and some big time people to back it for it to get some more people interested in it.
Of course. And I'm pretty sound on that as well. So, I mean, I think a digital economy is being created by the people. It's pretty cool. I don't know, right now, everyone's talking about DeFi, which is decentralized finance. And, all this is created on crypto platforms. So it's basically banking, but they're using cryptocurrency. And it gives you a reason, to say, why do we need these banks that just continue to inflate our money away, continue to fuck us over, continue to tell us that things are this way, but they're actually completely this way. So really, it's just power to the people. Gold is people's money, and Bitcoin's people's money. It's freedom. That's what it is.
It's freedom.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue against that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people need to understand this. I mean, but with this decentralized finance, these crypto tokens, I mean, people are able to take loans. People are able to, store their money. People are able to do everything that they do with banks. I mean, sometimes I think about banks and I'm like, what the hell are they doing for me besides just charging me $12 a month for a fucking statement?
I'm so sick of fees from the bank, dude.
Yeah.
Stupid ass fees.
If you think about it, interest rates have been zero, right? For like the last, the federal funds rate.
Zero.
So, yeah, well, right now the interest rates are at zero, and every time the economy starts to go sour, the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates. They have the ability to control interest rates, and that's the other piece of what I was trying to say. With they have the key to the printing press, but at the same time, they have the power to control interest rates because they're the smartest guys in the country, and they should be the only ones that can control interest rates. Not, definitely not the natural economy because interest rates usually fluctuate naturally.
They didn't get voted in, right?
I think the government selects the head of the Federal Reserve.
So through that, I guess they're voted in. But yeah, man, power to the people. I heard, was it Finland or Sweden or Iceland, somewhere up there? They had like Aurora coin or something like that I just heard about. That is supposed to be like their government's cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so
but if governments make their own cryptocurrency, does that screw Bitcoin?
Not necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
I think it could, but pay attention to these next couple stimulus, plans and checks that we're going to be getting soon. I know you've heard that more is coming, right?
Vaguely. I haven't heard any specifics.
Okay, well, I don't know if you obviously know what Coinbase is, right?
Coinbase is that's the app that I have on my phone where I bought my Bitcoin.
There you go. So
yeah.
I'm actually moving to Gemini just because Coinbase is kind of, with the government now a little bit. They're kind of,
Really?
buddy with the government. They're
The U.S. government?
Yes, U.S. government. It's a U.S. company. So yeah, they're in bed with the government a little bit now. They're the only exchange that's FDIC insured. And it's funny. People think of FDIC insurance and they're like, oh, great, my money's protected, up to $250,000.
Right.
But to me, it scares me because it just means that they're with the government.
Right. You lose trust of them a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I read a report recently, a couple actually, that Coinbase is working with the government and they're giving, people's data to the government. And that's the entire wrong idea. I think they're trying to. So the idea of Bitcoin was kind of to be completely decentralized. Government is not able to touch it. The Fed is not able to touch it. The banks aren't able to do anything with it. It's completely, non-inflatable. But what Coinbase is doing right now is completely different. And a lot of people are turning sour in the crypto industry.
Yeah, so like Coinbase isn't Bitcoin. Bitcoin is its own thing that you can get it on a flash drive. You can buy it on different things. But Coinbase, when you sign up, though, you do have to give them your information. So like that's how they get people's data, right?
Yeah, KYC information.
What's that?
It stands for Know Your Client in finance, but
Okay.
KYC is like your social security number, like your fingerprint. I don't know, whatever else.
I never like give a shit about giving up my data. Should I care?
I think you should. Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen to me?
I don't know, man.
That's what I'm saying. I can't think of it.
You have to. So if you can't think of it and you're not certain that nothing's going to happen to you, then why would you think that nothing can ever happen to you?
Well,
that's how people have to think.
They know my name. They know like where I live. They know my social security number. I mean, I don't think they're not like gonna hack me because they are the government. Like, right? It's not like a hack. It's not like a identity theft situation, right? It's more of like a freedom, privacy. Like they might know where I'm at, type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm at the fucking grocery. I'm at the fucking grocery store. I'm at my office. I'm at Shelby's in Bethany Beach at her bachelorette party. Like, okay, is that not? What are you gonna do about that? Like, was that?
Yeah, but I don't know. A lot of indications point to me. I think that we're kind of looking a little bit like China. I mean, a lot of people think that we'll never be China. We'll never be communist. And that's what our government loves to say. We love to always keep saying, we love to talk about the Constitution more and more now. The Constitution to me does not apply anymore. We don't have freedom anymore.
And what's the negative things in China that happen? I mean, obviously I understand communism, that doesn't allow businesses to grow and everyone gets like the same wages. Like there's no capitalism. I get that. But like if they have our information and we're still capitalists, what's the negative effects then? Like what is an example of something from China having everyone's data that could negatively happen here?
They just know, I mean, they go a little bit further, man. I mean, they control your money. I mean, China doesn't allow you to take your money out. China doesn't allow you to leave the country unless you go through a crazy, if you have a lot of money. And I think that's coming to us too, border protection to keep wealth inside of the country because they're all about, competition, these countries, and they want to get that global reserve currency crown, or they just want to be the powerhouse because once you wear that global reserve currency crown, then you literally, I mean, we have it so good, and we're so lucky that we live in this country. So many people don't realize that because the entire world produces and we consume, but we're using money that we know we're never going to pay back. So how is that fair? They're producing for us. But what other things that China do is, they have little drones that fly around and they shame you. I just don't want that in our country. I mean, the government knows every move, and you know what? There's so many things that the government doesn't tell us. Why would you? I mean, I still don't want them following me. And there could be a handful of reasons why they are, for reasons we might not even think about.
I can see you like whipping your dick out and like flashing a drone.
I'd probably do that. I've grown up a little bit, but I'd probably still do that. Just getting drunk.
You've grown up a little bit. So like, all right, so fucking entrepreneurs, like, how do you, if you're really concerned about all the shit you're talking about, like, what do you do?
Right. So specifically, I feel like this related to you because I know how hard it is right now for entrepreneurs and how hard it is for small businesses. I know how hard it is for, people trying to, hop on the back of Silicon Valley now. I mean, every idea is getting gobbled up by these behemoths, these, whatever you want to call them, the MAGA companies that have $1 trillion plus valuations in the stock market. And also, these regulations that the government are creating is really just creating barriers for the common person to become successful. I mean, you still might find a way. I mean,
so I've never had like in my business, like a government regulation that stopped me yet. I mean, we're small, like we're like a $5-6 million business, like, but I've yet to, besides for paying taxes, like what's an example of a regulation that might hurt a small business? Basically, like if they're trying to get a new building, there might be like the environmental like project that you have to do that might take like 8 months to turn around, or like how do regulations hurt small business?
Yeah, I mean, anything you can think of. I mean, little things. I mean, anything that the government can think of to suppress small businesses, to make them larger. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, think about it. I mean, have you heard at all about, corporations kind of pushing, ideas onto their employees? I mean, I'm getting an email every day. I mean, it's 5 emails a day, and I don't want to say the wrong thing here because, it's pretty sensitive, but, they're saying like, this is, all of this is because of systemic racism or all this, be nice to the LGBTQ community. And it's, my employer should not be doing that, in my opinion. Right. Yeah. But they're doing that
to control your behavior.
And they're controlling us. And I think the government, there's a reason why a lot of these huge businesses like Amazon, Netflix, Google, they haven't paid a dime in taxes ever. They don't pay taxes. So that is hurting small businesses that way too, because the more they don't pay in taxes, when they make the most money in the entire country out of anyone, you have to pay more taxes. I have to pay more taxes. Right. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So talk about like the coronavirus or like the protest, the Black Lives Matter stuff, and like how you think that might be like being pushed at, or basically like a scapegoat for the behavior of the Federal Reserve or the federal government.
Yeah, so I don't know if like in the past, like every crisis that we've had, financial crisis that we've had. They try to pair it with something. They always try to, like the financial crisis, 2008, mortgage crisis, right?
In my mind, if you ask me why did the 2008 financial crisis happen, I would say because Wall Street tried to put a bunch of mortgages together and like it all got fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, it was mortgage-backed securities.
Yeah.
I like to call them, this one guy I follow calls them mortgage-backed sausages because they're kind of like, they're just these they're just these, loans that have been defaulted on that are packaged into bonds.
And I've seen that movie, The Big Short.
Okay.
But that's as best as I could explain it, basically. So, like, I don't know. That's what happened in 2008. But,
right.
So you think that was a scapegoat?
Yes, of course. I mean, every time one of these financial crises happen, it's just because there's a dollar shortage. That's it. It's a dollar shortage.
So now they're saying it's because of the virus.
Now they're saying it's because of the virus.
I mean, the virus, like, it can affect the economy. Like, people are shopping less in certain industries and stuff like that. Like, but that's what they want me to think.
Of course. I mean, that is true. All of that is true. I mean, if there's no velocity of money and people are saving, they're not spending, the GDP is going to get hit. People, businesses are going to get hit hard. Because they're used to, having this income, and they're being stretched as well with regulations from the government. So it's making them harder and harder to turn a profit. So I think they have it as a cover. It's like literally the best cover, this pandemic, to cover everything up. Because even before the pandemic, they were cutting interest rates. The economy was in really bad shape. And the Federal Reserve was propping up the stock market and telling everybody that that's the economy when it really wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, right now they're just like, there's so many bailouts and loans. I mean, I don't know if you looked at the last, corporate bailout they had. The Fed had this program. They're buying individual corporate bonds now.
No, I don't know about that.
And there's 750 different companies, and they're supposed to be supporting the companies that are doing poorly. But the top of the list was Berkshire Hathaway bonds, Apple bonds. Why are these companies getting money? Why are these getting companies? These are essentially bailouts because they're buying their debt, so they're able to issue more debt. It's crazy.
Wow.
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And you guys are getting, it's nice that you got the PPP loan, but in my opinion, with that loan compared to the loans, billions of dollars that these huge companies are getting that are already flush with cash, you're getting PPP'd on. It's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice, but it's a game. It's such a big amount for the other companies that I'm getting PPP'd on. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I did some companies give it back. It was like Shake Shack or something like that.
Yeah.
I think because they got like socially like shamed or something like that.
Yeah. So that's, to me, in my opinion, that's a government tactic. Right away, they have this PPP loans issued, and so they can do a song and dance for the people to make them look like the good guy still. They're going to be like, oh, I can't believe the LA Lakers took a loan, or like, I can't believe Shake Shack took a loan, or, give it back. And they got shamed, and they got publicly disgraced, and everyone was like, wow, the government's got our back. Yeah, don't let them do that. But now when no one's looking, they announce the names a month later after they do it. And then if you read the fine print, you got to go into the Fed's website. It's really hard to find this list, but once you find it, you see that they're the ones that directly bailed these huge companies out. way bigger than freaking, I don't know what restaurant or LA Lakers. You know, it doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. Damn, dude. So what's the answer? Kanye West for president? What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I went to the website that you look at for betting, and he was 500 to 1, and he jumped all the way, I think, to 50 to 1.
Like, I mean, we love Kanye West. I think, right?
Love him. He's awesome.
In college, his new album came out, Dark Twisted Fantasy. Dude, oh my God, that was amazing.
Great album.
Like,
I love that you say that too. That's one of my favorite albums, and I feel like it slept.
That's my favorite album by him. I mean, College Dropout and Dark Twisted Fantasy are 1 and 2.
Yeah. And
I remember also in college, 808 and Heartbreaks came out, and that was not universally loved by everyone as much as the other ones.
I have a couple I like. But...
That's Shelby's favorite, because it's like very like just kind of girly and like a lot of auto tune. Anyway, we fucking love Kanye West, right? Like, and I've always loved him too. And I actually liked when he came out kind of liking Trump and stuff like that. Honestly, just because he was like saying, fuck what everyone thinks I should think. I'm going to think differently. That's like always the way I think about it. You don't know. He's like, you're kind of nervous because you don't know what the hell he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to say. And that's the thing I like about him. But
like, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of...
He has to be on the ballots and shit like that.
I know. It's it doesn't matter what you know anymore, I guess, I mean, it's funny. I don't know if you remember, Kim Kardashian about a year ago, she started studying for the,
I love Kim
the
Kardashian, man.
California bar exam.
I love her.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing, man. She knows how to, pitch a product and knows how to keep it going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny when you think about Kim Kardashian. I mean, if she never, she's famous because of ridiculous reasons.
For a sex tape.
Yeah, for a sex tape, blowing Ray J, and she wouldn't have ever been famous either if her dad didn't get OJ off, right? I mean, it's just, how does this happen?
Her dad got OJ off, she got Ray J off on some on some super pixelated porn that's no good.
Yeah, it was good at the time, though.
It was good at the time, yeah, at the time. But that's it's so pixelated and like old school now, and not like it's more for like, oh, this is Kim Kardashian. But yeah, dude, I respect people that can like market themselves just by marketing. Like, I like her.
Right.
I respect her. And,
right. That's kind of how Trump got into power.
Kind of. Yeah.
No, he didn't care what kind of attention he got. It was just attention at the end of the day.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, look at Kardashian. I don't know what Kardashian it was. I think it was like
Kylie?
I don't know, the one that she sold like her company for like $500 million or like $500 million.
Did Kylie sell it? I don't think she's like. I heard she's worth $1 billion, but she has Kylie lip gloss. And,
I think she sold 51% of the company or something like that.
A piece of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, dude. I mean, they're great. They're great at what they do. They get attention, then they sell like products to their customers, and like, I respect that. I respect the.
I do too.
I respect the like the little like marketing tactics that go behind it, and everyone like rips on them. But Kanye's he's in that world, right? But like, the easiest thing to say is he's fucking nuts and he's not going to be president. But like, that's what everyone said about Trump, though. So it's like, I don't want to be like on the record saying there's no chance, because I like the guy and I feel like he actually could be a unifying figure.
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, we talked about this already. Trump had plenty of other ideas, in my opinion. Then he gets in office and does the complete opposite. So does it really matter who's actually in that seat?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to me. And plus, I mean, I think it's a good time for Kanye to run with this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I mean, I think he's going to gain a lot of power
because he could get white people like me and you, and he could get black people, and it could be unifying. And like at this point,
I love him regardless.
I've always liked Trump, and I'm actually like low on him right now. Like you said, you're low because he had promises that he made in the campaign and didn't follow through. Like, okay, I get that, and I agree. But I'm kind of pissed that he hasn't done a better job of like trying to unify the country through this whole thing. Like, I feel like he just needs to go up there, get a speechwriter, and make a speech about unity. Like, we all love each other. I have a dream type of speech. And, like, people are going to say, oh, that was a speechwriter. Who cares? Just keep going up there and talking about how we all love each other and we should all be unified as a country. I feel like he hasn't done that, and it's kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, well, I think it has a lot to do with our, our system. Every 4 years, if you do a good job, you get reelected, then you get to be president for 8 years, right? That's not enough time. That's not enough time to get done what you want to be done, especially when we have these parties so far apart. And then it just turns into, flip-flopping, and then the next party, kind of walking back. Their first 3 years are saying, I'm gonna repeal and replace Obamacare. I'm gonna do everything that Obama, and 3 years is up, and you're like, wow, okay, so
it wasn't that long. That wasn't that long.
Yeah, it was replacing everything that Obama did. So we're as a country, we're moving backwards, right?
Yeah.
In China, I don't want to support communism, because I'm not a fan of it. But if you look at China, President Xi over there is going to be president for the entire rest of his life, right?
Yeah.
So that means they have all that time to plan exactly what they want to do.
Right.
Here, we're moving backwards.
Yeah. Like, that's so true. And it's just based upon like, and then what really matters is just like the headlines and the feelings of the day and this little stuff that isn't building the economy for a 10-year, 50-year future. It's just for like, I got to get this vote on this date, November 8th or whatever the hell it is.
Exactly. So I can give small business loans to Kushner, and so I can, you know what I mean? It's just, that's the thing. I mean, it's just so it irks me. I really want to know what the actual benefits of being, in Congress are, because I don't know if I forgot to tell you this. That's a good stat too. This will really open people's eyes, but from 2008, after the financial crisis, the income per household in Capitol Hill in Washington has increased by 67%, whereas our incomes everywhere else in the United States have only increased by 4.5%.
That's a huge difference. 67.5% compared to 4%.
Yes, and that's right after the financial crisis. And in all these crises, they fill their pockets with money while we suffer.
And like, you almost can't blame them. Like they're like, I don't know if I was in that situation, would I do it? I don't know. Like maybe if it was justified by a bunch of other intelligent, well-known congressmen, and they were like, just do it. I'd be like, maybe. I don't know. It's crazy though.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
the government gets all their information on what they should do with the economy from the Federal Reserve, and you know what the Federal Reserve does. I mean, it's just these are the expert bankers, you know. But
right.
are they?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's that, and then just shit's just so far out of control that, in my opinion, it's unfixable. I think we've been in a depression ever since 2008. I think 2008 broke the economy, and I think that they're all just doing a good job of hiding the depression. And if you look around, you can see there's more and more. I mean, one of the best performing stocks actually since 2008 is a mobile home company. Like, does that make sense? I mean,
Interesting.
and then on TV, we're all on Netflix all the time. We're consumed. We're doing nothing, right, to better ourselves. But we're just watching these
fighting
shows.
on Twitter and such.
Yeah, but we're watching these shows. Does it like with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West and the richest people, the people in the 1%? And in our heads, we're like, oh, the economy's great, But why don't you look in the mirror and realize what you actually don't have?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like for my business on a small level, like people are buying fucking monograms, girls and stuff like that. Like, I guess I think that means that they have some disposable income because it's like clothing. That's just maybe it's just a small, just little sliver of like the whole thing that you can't like base your global perception off of. Like people are buying your own product, and pretty much like we're just marketing too. Like, yeah.
Well, that's how it works too. That's how interest rates work, man. I mean, the Federal Reserve has the ability to raise and lower interest rates. And every time we're entering a crisis, they think that people are going to hold more money. So there's not going to be as much velocity. So the economy is going to get hit a little bit. So what they do is lower interest rates. So borrowing costs are way lower for businesses. Borrowing costs are way lower for everybody, except credit card interest rates. They're never going to fall. But it's just like, so more of the economy is stimulated. That's how they do it with interest rates. And ever since 2008, interest rates have been, I think for the first 8 years after 2008, the interest rates were at zero. And then they finally started to try to tick them up to make the economy more normal. And it didn't, the market, I don't know if you remember the downturn in 2018 when the market kind of crashed in 2018 at the end of the year.
I don't really remember that.
Yeah, well, it took a huge downturn and everyone sold out and then thought it was going to be the actual downturn of the market because the market's really overvalued. It's been overvalued for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was because they tried to raise interest rates and the market rejected it. They're like, oh, no, you can't. Market's going to come down.
Dang.
Money's going to be too expensive for these companies to keep going. So,
dang. It's nuts, dude.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When you said about, these girls buying monograms from you.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that more than 50% of that is their actual own money? Or do you think, they're a net deficit? Do you think it's credit? Do you think it's their credit card?
I honestly don't know, and I don't really care.
It doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to you.
But I would love to know if it was like a debit card or a credit card in which they purchased. And then our competitor, one of our main competitors, Marley Lilly, they sell similar products to us. On their site, they have like and this is an option for us. I haven't put it in. You can like break up your payments for like a $40 sweatshirt, and that's obviously credit. But yeah, it's like only put down $10 now, and then and it allows
financing a monogram for $40.
Financing like a sweatshirt, yeah, like a like it's called Afterpay or something like that,
right?
And I don't know what percentage of their customers use it. Like I've thought about putting it on our site, but I don't know.
I mean, hey, from a business perspective, I would do it. Anything that could possibly help my business, and wouldn't be too much of a charge up front, I would do it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, me trying to navigate through this, I'm spending a lot of time on this, probably more than I should, but it's very important. It's very important. Make as much money as you can because, in my opinion, they're printing at such a crazy rate. And at the end of all these cycles, they print until the currency dies.
And what should you do with it?
Buy gold, buy physical gold, not paper. Physical gold, physical silver, physical platinum.
What about I'm considering buying this big building.
Cryptocurrency.
Like what about a physical, like a house or like a car or like a physical property? Is that in the same category?
So what I would recommend, and it's kind of sad because I have so many friends that are buying houses right now. What I would recommend is if you have the money for it, and it's shelter, it's more of shelter. You don't have all the bells and whistles. I don't know if you've seen like all these places now, all these universities, they all have like, a lazy river. Everything's got bells and whistles now, and it's more expensive. And these little bells and whistles justify the cost of the shelter, right? But at the same time, all it is a house. All it is an office. Like, you don't need all this shit from these people selling it to you. I mean, you can add it yourself and find a more cost efficient way to do it if you really want that,
But in general, though, if you're worried about the value of the dollar and all that shit, like, yeah, you're talking about buying physical assets, gold, silver, like, is a home or a building like one of those things? Because if the money crashes, the building still exists.
If you own it outright, then yes.
Okay, if you own it outright. But if it's financially engineered that you own it on paper, maybe not.
Well, yeah, if you have a big loan, if you still have a big loan that you're, paying back. I have zero debt. I mean, that's my advice to everybody. Get out of debt completely.
I actually do. I do, besides for my mortgage.
Oh, great. Okay.
And I guess, yeah, I mean, that's still debt.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, at the end of the day, it's something, right? But in my opinion, gold and silver and Bitcoin are very important. The most important, because it's a global asset, right? There's demand for it globally. I mean, real estate in the United States, I mean, who knows? Like, if our economy implodes, I mean, we have this much debt. What do you think are going to happen to taxes in the next couple of years? They have to rise. They have to go up. They have to go up, especially because the Federal Reserve said interest rates will be at zero through 2022. So the government is going to continue to borrow, because whenever, in my opinion, interest rates are a measure of, how much the government's going to borrow.
Do they tax? Do they tax on the profit of Bitcoin, silver, and gold?
Of course, yeah.
Like, I didn't pay it that one time. I made 22 grand, but I just didn't like report it. But like, if I was bigger, they might like be. So if you make a profit, you're taxed on it like income.
Yes, it's taxed as a commodity. They're all taxed as commodities.
Okay.
Even
if it's on paper, even if you don't cash out, you still, what is that? You still get taxed on that if it's like it raised in value, but you haven't cashed out.
No, so you haven't turned a profit yet unless you sell it.
Okay.
No, it's called an unrealized gain or loss. Gotcha. It's not realized yet, and then once you sell it, then it's realized, and then you owe taxes.
Okay. Interesting.
Then there's short-term gains. There's long-term gains, and
right.
Short-term capital gains are a little bit higher than long-term capital gains. So they do that, in my opinion, to get you to keep holding the asset longer.
Okay. All right. So ultimately, that's like if you have one piece of advice to people with all this shit, it's buy that stuff. Buy gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Yep, buy gold, silver, Bitcoin. I mean, there's a lot of other things you can buy. I mean, platinum, but just focus on commodities. Like you said, you were in the right place with the house. It's something that's finite, and
it's a bricks, it's walls, it's real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But don't try your best to stay out of debt. In my opinion, if you're in any debt before you buy any of these instruments, completely get yourself out of debt. I guess unless you have like a mortgage. I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I frankly, I wouldn't want these banks. You're not
trying to buy a house soon, anytime soon.
No, I think it's. I mean, I would like to, and I can afford it. I could probably buy a house. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about that, but I could afford a house. I could afford a house right now, and I'm not buying it. I mean, we are because everyone said that. I mean, the housing bubble right now has exceeded the 2008 housing bubble. I mean, what is that?
Damn.
I mean, everything comes down.
Yeah.
So it just slowly creeps in there, and no one realizes that it's exceeded 2008. But there are certain areas in the country. I mean, if you go in the Midwest, areas that are cheaper. Especially if we have some kind of a urban sprawl out to rural areas, which I think will happen because, I think these companies that are like in New York and, these big expensive cities are going to be like, okay, well, we got it. We took a hit from this economic downturn, and everyone can, kind of work online.
Right.
Why do we need to? We're gonna get rid of this big building that we're renting. We're gonna get rid of the real estate budget that we have there and save a ton of money in there. So yeah. It's just like I don't think it's going to it'll have a lot of people leave these big cities, in my opinion, and I don't know. It's going to be very different after all this. I don't like to say it, but they call it the new normal. I really don't.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. It doesn't have to happen this way. Someone else had a little bit of a hand in it.
Crazy, dude. Well, that was very fucking insightful, and you feel like you got all your thoughts out and all your feelings about this stuff.
Yeah, well, I just want to emphasize everyone, needs to start paying attention to this. If you need some more, information to read, just to give yourself an idea and absorb it, there's a website. It's WTF happened in 1971.com. It has everything. It shows you, like what really happened in 71 and how your money's affected. It shows you all the charts that the government puts out, the government and the Fed puts out. I mean, all the information's out there. You just kind of gotta piece it together.
You just gotta think about it instead of watching Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. Do something for yourself. But one other thing that I do like to say a lot is the people in India, the culture of India, they realize this. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They always like to sport gold, in the country, and have like big gold necklaces, big gold bracelets, gold stuff. They love gold stuff. It's because they realize, they know that every 100 years these currencies die. So they kind of wear their storage of wealth on them, and it's been going on for thousands of years. And I one of my better friends, she's Indian, and her when relatives in her family die, she gets passed down these big pieces of gold because they know this is the only way that you can store your wealth, and it's been a storage of wealth for 10,000 years. So if our currency dies, instead of losing all your money, buy some gold, and then once the new currency is created, you could have a ton of money. It's really, so it's commodities, but more importantly, gold, silver, cryptocurrency. Not sure what's going to happen with that, but it looks like everything's, going to be great there. And yeah, just make sure you pay attention and don't listen to the media too much. Try to do your own research, try to put your own conclusions together, have the right influences. And then I think you'll be okay. But it's just something that needs to be drilled into people's heads. And that's why I'm here. I want the people that are close with me, that are close to me in my life, that I care about, to be happy after all this, and to have some wealth. And I think it's important. So once you understand it, everyone out there, like, I think you should tell everybody else. Try telling the entire world.
Spread the word.
If you care about these people, spread the word.
All right. Well, the listeners of the Sean Lowery Show, they owe you. So, all right, dude.
Nothing.
You the man.
Cheers. Yeah, you're the man, dude.
Give me a cheers.
You got it.
All right. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Peace out. Hey, thanks for watching the Sean Lowery Show. You are the greatest. Watch some more videos of me right up here.